Hey guys, my name is Dice Rollin'. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Christmas horror movie that set many a mother and concerned Karen off. Based on a screenplay by Paul Kamey and adapted by Michael Hickey, Silent Night, Deadly Night was directed by Charles E. Sellier. It was released on November 9th, 1984. As I mentioned, this movie had quite a rough go when it was released, as many people were up in arms about the depiction of Santa being a killer. The Parent-Teacher Association even got involved to ban it from theaters. It quickly became one of the most controversial movies of the 80s, and got a lot of negative feedback. This included Siskel and Ebert, surprise. However, over time it has earned a kind of cult following, as many controversial horror movies do. It's a popular choice during the Christmas season, and has spawned several sequels as well as a remake/reboot. After witnessing the brutal murder of his parents by a man in a Santa suit, a boy grows up into a seemingly normal young man. However, when his boss has him dress as Santa for the holiday season, the teen's psyche tips into the unhinged, as he begins his own murder spree. So without further ado, this is my review of Silent Night, Deadly Night. The movie begins with the ever-popular small child sings a creepy tune off-key trope. Before we get some opening credits, we're introduced to the Chapman family consisting of Jim, played by the late Geoff Hansen, Ellie, played by the late Tara Buckman, Ricky, played by Melissa Best, and Billy, played by Jonathan Best. They're visiting Grandpa, played by the late Will Hare, in the mental institute for Christmas Eve. No wonder he's in here. Last time I saw him, he was raving about his precious pine trees. Ellie and Jim leave Billy to talk with the doctor for a minute.
Don't worry. Grandpa's not gonna hurt you.
Yeah, bullshit, Ma.
Christmas Eve is the scariest damn night of the year.
I mean, he's got a point. Gods forbid you have to go to a store on Christmas Eve. It's fucking terrifying. Turns out, Grandpa's not quite as unresponsive as everybody thought. Even better, he's got some not so warm and fuzzy things to say about Santa Claus. This is how childhood trauma starts. According to Grandpa, if you're not perfectly well behaved every day of the year, then Santa's gonna come down your chimney and whoop your ass. No, sir, I believe you're confusing Santa with Krampus. Or maybe God. So that was a fun visit. Let's not make this an annual thing, okay? Elsewhere, there's a Santa-guised robber played by Charles Dyerkop, who's just taken money from a convenience store and killed the owner. Not long after, the Chapman family comes across him on the road. While checking to see if he needs a ride, Jim gets shot, which leaves Billy to exit the car and hide in the bushes, while Santa assaults and kills Ellie. Fast forward 3 years and we find Billy, now played by Danny Wagner, and Ricky, now played by Max Broadhead, at St. Mary's Orphanage. Judging by Billy's artistic skills, he hasn't exactly healed from the traumatic incident. The Mother Superior, played by the late Lillian Chauvin, doesn't understand the concept of a deeply scarred child, so Billy receives solitary confinement, though I feel like that mullet of his is punishment enough. Sister Margaret, played by Gilmer McCormick, argues that something else should be done with Billy. Like, oh, I don't know, therapy. And this is why I have a problem with people who think they can fix everything with strictness and religion. Sister Margaret goes against Mother Superior's orders, and encourages Billy to go outside and play with the other children. However, on his way there, he happens to come across some debauchery. In such a holy place? Never. It's no surprise that Mother Superior discovers this too, and brings a level of kink into this by beating both their asses.
The safety word is banana.
Since she's on a roll, next up to get his ass belted is Billy, and that's on distilling prepubescent trauma and oppressed religious morals.
Please let me up.
Speaking of repressed, Jesus Christ! Next she'll be enforcing waterboarding. I believe Child Protective Services should be climbing in through the window any minute now. Now it's Christmas Day, and it's time for the children to sit on Santa's lap. Well, most of the children. You know, maybe he's just Jewish. Fast forward another 10 years, and Billy, now played by Robert Brian Wilson, works at a toy store owned by Mr. Sims, played by Britt Leach. Now at this point it's mentioned that Billy is 18. 18 my ass. Regardless, Billy does quite well here, as shown through a montage with a song I could have sworn was in Family Ties. At least until preparations for Christmas are underway. Obviously, there's many a flashback to be had once the Rent-A-Santa shows up. Let's make things worse, shall we? The designated Santa for the holiday season has been injured, so to solve this problem, Mr. Sims puts Billy in the red suit and white beard. This isn't what they meant by immersion therapy. By the time Christmas Eve is done, everybody celebrates in proper drunken fashion. But Billy's not having quite the same evening as everyone else. I don't know what the hell was in the alcohol Mr. Sims gave him, but it seems to have been the last straw for Billy's mental stability. He finds Andy, played by Randy Stumpf, molesting Pamela, played by Tony Nero, in the back room and promptly strangles Andy with some festive lights. A reasonable response? Unfortunately, he doesn't stop there and stabs Pamela. Going to investigate the noises he heard, Mr. Sims is the next to get offed by means of Black & Decker. Discovering his body, Mrs. Randall, played by Nancy Borganich, freaks out and tries to escape the store. Unfortunately for her, everything's already been locked up, and Billy has cut the phone line. So obviously this isn't gonna end well for her. Sister Margaret shows up to find the mini massacre after Billy's gone off to continue his Kris Kringle carnage. Hey, there's Linnea. For those unaware, this is Denise, played by Linnea Quigley, and Tommy, played by Leo Getter. Their billiard foreplay is interrupted when she goes to let the cat in. You'll have to provide your own pussy joke. Also, how warm-blooded is this woman to be going topless in the middle of winter? Gonna gouge both Tommy's eyes out. Denise quickly finds out she picked a bad night to be babysitting.
Punish!
Obligatory half-naked woman being impaled. I almost feel like I could make a Rudolph joke here, but I'll let it pass. Oh, thank God. I can only take so many areolas at a time. Goodbye, Tommy. At least Billy doesn't have any prejudice when it comes to topless blondes. Before he leaves, Billy gives Cindy, played by Amy Stuyvesant, a gift? Next, Billy appears in the woods where a couple of 30-somethings are sledding on stolen sleds. This would fall under the naughty category, so Billy beheads one and leaves the other to be scarred for life. Sister Margaret meets with the police captain, played by H.E.D. Redford, and they figure out where Billy is headed next according to his logic. Naturally, that would be the orphanage. So, officers are sent there, only for one such policeman to accidentally shoot Father O'Brien. While Father O'Brien is hauled off in an ambulance, Officer Barnes, played by Max Robinson, patrols the grounds. Are we sure we want Barney Fife over here to stick around? It doesn't really matter because he receives the Dick Halloran treatment from Billy. Gaining access to the orphanage from one of the children, Billy confronts Mother Superior. But before he can lop off her head, the captain shoots him. And that's twice in one day these kids have seen Santa shot. So for Christmas, they all get therapy. With Ricky giving us a naughty cliffhanger, the credits roll with the song Santa's Watching. Silent Night, Deadly Night's plot is one that's grown on me a little bit over time. Perhaps it's the idea of a ridiculous Yuletide-themed slasher, but it holds a certain charm to it. I watched this movie for the first time a few years ago knowing nothing about the controversy that had surrounded it. It's an interesting story that leans into the psychological elements, instead of just throwing a killer Santa at us. At least, not right away. As entertaining as I'm sure that would be. It's nice to have a reason for it. And if you think about it, it's a unique thing for a slasher movie to give its killer more focus and background than those he's going to be slaughtering. Because of this, it makes you feel sorry for the person who ends up playing the part of the antagonist. The one you should be opposed to. You wouldn't necessarily expect a sympathetic killer from a movie like this. The acting is cheesy and not the best I've witnessed. Obviously, it can be very amusing throughout, but equally as obvious is that this isn't something that's supposed to be taken seriously. Robert Brian Wilson, being the center of attention for the most part, did well conveying the layers of Billy as a character, and the spiral of his psyche. The child actors did good as well. I was kind of impressed given the subject material and all. I think everyone carried this movie with just the right amount of cheese, to make it even more entertaining than it would have been if they were trying to make it as serious as possible. The atmosphere and settings are suitably Christmassy. More than that, they fit the tone of things, and act as a solid environment for things to unfold. There's nothing really fantastic to speak of, but in this case that's completely fine. It just works well with everything else to create the appropriate atmosphere for the story. The practical effects aren't anything truly impressive, with the exception perhaps of Denise's death. Things are kept relatively simple, and that benefited the film. All the deaths are solid, and I wasn't laughing at seeing the edges of latex appliances, or paint like blood, or anything like that. The score, composed by Perry Botkin Jr., combines both a creepy and Yuletide tone. You recognize the score pretty easily, and it serves the movie well. It can be extraordinarily chaotic one minute, and eerily subdued the next. It's not hard at all to only listen to the score, and know that this is a Christmas movie, one where several people get murdered. Even the carols/songs are catchy in their own right, though I imagine that after the third or fourth time of listening to them, you probably stand to not hear them again for a while. But that's with just about any Christmas song for me, so... With all that being said, I'm giving Silent Night, Deadly Night 6 out of 10 bloody thumbs up. I can pretty easily see why this has become the sort of cult classic that it has. It's intelligent to a point, and gives the main character depth, but it also provides what any horror fan looks forward to: creative kills, a twisted plot, and plenty of nudity. Obviously, the chaos that was its first few weeks in theaters drove its infamy way up. By no means do I think that it's anywhere near the most grotesque and disturbing horror movies out there, not even during the 80s, but people enjoyed and continue to enjoy it as an annual thing. In a way, I'm glad that within the last few decades, it's been given sort of a second chance to be featured prominently. I would recommend Silent Night, Deadly Night to slasher fans, people wanting a good Christmas-themed horror movie, controversial horror film enthusiasts, and anyone wanting to see a bunch of Yuletide titties. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like to let me know. Don't forget to leave a comment down below telling me what you think of this movie, and if you have any suggestions for horror movies you would like to see me review in the future. You can support the channel through my Patreon, where you would also get exclusive and early access to videos like this. And don't forget to share this video to help the channel grow, and subscribe for more videos like this. See you later.